Today, the Trump administration announced it's putting an end to DACA, President Obama's controversial program that bars the federal government from deporting illegal immigrants brought to the United States as children. Under the President Trump's plan, DACA will begin phasing out 6 months from now, and in the meantime, the president is urging Congress to act on the issue.
I have a great heart for the folks we're talking about, a great love for them. And people think in terms of children, but they're really young adults. I have a love for these people, and hopefully now Congress will be able to help them and do it properly. And I can tell you, in speaking to members of Congress, they want to be able to do something and do it right. And really, we have no choice. We have to be able to do something. And I think it's going to work out very well. And long term, it's going to be the right solution.
And within the last half hour, President Trump tweeted out, quote, "Congress now has 6 months to legalize DACA, something the Obama administration was unable to do. If they can't, I will revisit this issue," unquote. Joining us now with details is Chief National Correspondent Ed Henry. Ed.
Dana, shout out to Gutfeld, of course, especially after Labor Day. But what you see the president doing there is throwing down the gauntlet and saying Congress has to do its job. He's facing political minefields from the left to the right. Basically, some Republicans warning that the president can lose control, Republican control of Congress, if this issue is not handled well. But people inside the White House tell me they're still hopeful they can get a compromise where they show the president is moving to the middle, trying to be humane towards the dreamers, and exchange wants Democrats to compromise as well and get tough on illegal immigration, either a down payment on the wall or other measures to go after illegal immigration. The attacks, though, fast and furious from the left, as I mentioned. You see former President Barack Obama there, breaking with recent tradition of formers of not blasting the decisions of the current occupant of the office because he believes this is a matter of conscience. Obama declaring, quote, "Ultimately, this is about basic decency. This is about whether we are a people who kick hopeful young strivers out of America or whether we treat them the way we'd want our own kids to be treated. It's about who we are as a people and who we want to be." Of course, we should note the former president did not codify this into law when he had a chance to do that. One of the many problems he handed off to President Trump. So President Trump now taking flack as well from the right. You have hardliners against illegal immigration, like Republican Steve King of Iowa, insisting the commander-in-chief should have simply ended DACA altogether, not giving Congress a 6-month window to try and codify it into law. King saying the president may, quote, "cause a great big civil war among the Republicans." But Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General, who took the lead on the issue today, insisted compromise can be found. Watch.
We are people of compassion, and we are people of law. But there is nothing compassionate about the failure to enforce immigration laws.
And even Senator Lindsey Graham, a Republican who is not a reliable supporter of this president, came out today and said there are Republicans like him on the Hill who believe the president stepped up here, put the issue right where it belongs on Capitol Hill. And here is the key. In fact, President Obama said much the same in June of 2012 when he issued this executive order on DACA. He said, look, this is an executive action in the middle of an election year, 2012. He called it, quote, "a temporary stopgap measure." Clearly, President Obama at that time was saying he wanted to move forward, but eventually Congress would have to try and codify this into law. Dana?
All right, Ed Henry, thank you so much. Greg, let's start with you because there's been a lot of hysteria, which we're going to talk about in the B block. But maybe by the end, when President Trump tweets that tonight, we realize that he just wants to get to the status quo and have Congress codify it.
Did I miss something here? I don't understand where the panic is coming from. All Donald Trump is doing is moving like a box from one room to the other. It's like, you know, when somebody leaves, you know, a box of trophies and diplomas in the living room, you go, no, that's in the den. That's he's going like this thing that President Obama left there, another stink bomb that he leaves. By the way, President Obama is really good at this, into turning people into reverse Santas. He gives something away knowing that nobody wants to be a reverse Santa. So he's making Donald Trump fix his mess. All Donald Trump is saying is this has to be fixed. This is something that you left. You yourself said it was a makeshift stopgap to help non-citizens. Now I got to clean up this mess. I just want it done. That's all he's doing. It's amazing that how the good guy in this is the guy who created this faulty Band-Aid And the bad guy is the one who's looking out for American interests and seeking to fix this Band-Aid. It should be the opposite.
That is interesting.
Thank you, Dana.
Well, you know, I've been
Can
gone.
we have more of Ed Henry?
Do you want?
Yes, I want 4 more minutes of Ed Henry.
All right, well, we'll try to get that for you in the next block. But first, we must go to Jesse Waters for his thoughts on this. Do you think Congress can get it done in 6 months?
In 6 months, no. In 6 years, no. I don't trust Congress to do anything. Off of Greg's analogy, reverse Santa, this is kind of like President Obama for Christmas gives you a stolen car. And then you're riding around in the stolen car, you're real happy about it, but you're kind of looking over your shoulder. Then all of a sudden, Sheriff Trump comes along and seizes the hot car back and says, you know what, listen, we're not going to arrest you, but we're going to drive you to the dealership. We're going to get you some good numbers on a new lease. There you go. But everyone's mad at Trump. It doesn't make any sense. I think this was a law and order play done in a caring way. Remember, Obama said this was unconstitutional.
Right. Then
2 years later turned it around and did it anyway. And it caused this mad rush of people from Central America bringing their kids, caused a humanitarian crisis at the border. Congress makes immigration law. The executive doesn't. So all of these states now sue the executive. Trump says, you know what, I don't want to defend this illegal act. Let's kick it to Congress. They'll hammer out a play for this. As long as these people are protected, that's fine. Now he's the bad guy? Doesn't make any sense.
Kennedy, talking about the states that were suing, one of the things that there's been some commentary about is that President Trump could have done what President Obama did on gay marriage. So wait for the lawsuits to come in, take it to the Supreme Court, and then all of a sudden announce we're not going to defend that. So basically making it de facto law.
No, but he shifts it to Congress. And the difference between same-sex marriage and immigration is Congress has an obligation, a moral obligation, to hammer out the immigration policy in this country. And what the president did, President Obama did, was it was very cruel. He talks about cruelty and he talks about morality. He knows how easy it is to undo an executive order. He knows how easy it is to unwrite a memo like that. But he was toying with 800,000 lives, 800,000 people who were brought here essentially against their will, most of whom, a vast majority, work. They want to be Americans. They've done nothing wrong. If that were so important, so critically important, and I argue that our immigration policy is such a mess that it is, then the president back in 2009 had the moral obligation to take care of immigration instead of screwing up the health care system like he did with the implicit failure that is Obamacare.
Well, to that point,
Bravo.
Darling. There is a compassionate argument to be made about the people who, the 800,000, who might not see it the way that we do, and from a perspective of just looking at this logically, right? So if you are worried and you have anxiety that you might have to, start packing things up, you don't know where you might go. There is something to be said about that, and I think they could have done that a little bit in a nicer way.
In a nicer way?
Meaning that I think that President Trump's announcement, I think that Jeff Sessions' announcement should have been immediately followed by a speech by the president, or like a statement in the Rose Garden, or something that would ease the tensions. If that was his intent, ultimately, the tweet tonight saying, I want them to get to this so that I can sign it, that probably would have basically turned the temperature down today.
Look, you're trying to dress up what was a brutal, mean act. I mean, there's 70% of the American people, this is not even a political divide, think that this program should remain in place. 70%. That's unbelievable.
So it should be able to pass Congress?
Absolutely. But remember, President Obama got it through the House. It got held up in the Senate. Republican opposition to the overall immigration reform in this country. And we know that story going back to the Bush administration, to your years. We know that the right wing just stopped immigration reform.
Can I stop you?
Let me finish up. So
okay,
my feeling is very strongly that what you're talking about here is playing politics with young people, with people's lives.
Who did that?
Because they are going to have tremendous anxiety about where they stand, and you are potentially breaking up families by saying the kids would have to go. And these are people who have served in our military. These are people who are in school. These are people who, I think it's overwhelming, have no criminal record. So what you're talking about is the President Trump saying, oh, this is about law and order. Oh, my gosh, I must have forgotten about Joe Arpaio. Law and order only goes one way. It goes against little kids, but it's okay for Joe Arpaio to be found breaking the law.
How is this mean again? I don't understand.
How is this mean?
You said it was mean in the beginning, but you didn't explain why it was mean.
I told you. I said it was mean.
No,
you listen more carefully. I said that it's going to create anxiety.
None of the stuff is happening.
It's going to create anxiety. Anxiety is happening.
But it hasn't happened.
Anxiety is happening right now.
He's kicking it back to Congress so it will be ratified.
You know that Congress can't even get immigration reform. Here's the kicker to you.
You want that to happen.
Here's the kicker to you. President Trump will not say tonight that he would support this bill separate and apart from the larger immigration reform, which is, as you heard from Jesse,
what's wrong with that?
about
but wait, don't you think that's what his tweet tonight said?
No, I do not. He has not said, I will support this as a separate bill.
No, he said if Congress doesn't get their act together, I'll handle it.
What's he going to handle?
That hard to follow.
So what's he going to handle? A minute ago you said this was all about kicking it into Congress's court.
Yeah, I said that.
But, and you said that as well. But the fact is, so he's going to now take it back and say, I'm going to do something. What is he going to do beyond what President Obama?
He's not going to do it through executive order, but he's going to try to get it done maybe through a package.
Why doesn't he just
some
wait
sort of
then?
merit-based system, if they get border wall funding,
well,
put it together and we can get it done.
Juan, to your point, why doesn't he wait? My question is, and we're going to talk about North Korea because there's a lot to talk about, with everything going on in North Korea, with Congress, you know, a seeming inability to pass legislation that should be layups for the Republican Party. How on earth are they going to tackle all of this stuff?
Well, this is my point. I don't see that they have any real prospects of getting this done within 6 months, or as Jesse
I bet
said,
Republicans in Congress pass a dream amnesty quicker than they can pass tax cuts.
So what, and
listen to Paul Ryan. They can't even repeal Obamacare, but now they have this deadline.
President Trump sign that?
I think he would have signed it if it came into a larger package, not a clean bill.
That's why the politics are tricky. Can I go back to something, because I do want to...
Well, but just to reiterate your point. Your point is that Jesse's just right.
I let you finish earlier.
Go ahead.
I do think that it's not fair to say that it's the right that has played politics with immigration only. It has been both parties for sure.
Amen.
And let me take you back to 2007, when President Bush gave the first ever domestic policy address from the Oval Office on immigration reform. They're very close to getting it done. Yes, some on the right were frustrated. But the votes were there. But guess who pulled it back? Reid and Barack Obama. Why? Because Barack Obama wanted to run on the issue in 2009.
I don't believe that. You know what?
Absolutely.
You know who pulled it back? It was President Bush. President Bush spoke to this. It was right-wing talk radio that built a wall. That said,
right-wing talk radio is not constitutionally bound.
No, but
as members of Congress and the president are. We saw that it didn't go through under President Bush. I understand, and it's interestingly always a bipartisan effort. I mean, it always is whenever it makes its way through. So if it were so critically important, and if you needed these voters so badly to bolster the Democratic Party, if these people were an absolute gimme to make sure that Democrats had the presidency from President Obama to eternity, why wasn't that at the top of your agenda? Why did you give America this horrible, awful, meant-to-fail health care plan?
That's actually interesting, because I know that President Bush, in his meeting with Obama in that transition period, suggested to him to do immigration before he did health care.
It was obviously important to President Bush, who was from a border state.
But as I recall, the start of it was dealing with the economic crisis, and you don't get you don't get health care reform until like 2010. So initially, we're dealing with all the economic issues. Then we come to health care, and he had then Democratic majorities. By 2012, that's different.
Economic issues.
Can we give a last word to Greg?
Well, it goes back to the original thing. President Obama started the fire, and tonight he's heckling the fire department. Because the reason why you have Donald Trump is because of President Obama. He created the antidote to himself by flouting the laws. And there are so many examples of this, and this is one of them. He flouted the laws, and now we're dealing with it.
And he shouldn't be surprised that another president is using executive order to undo what he thought he did so easily, like an emperor.
Ooh, I declare!
He galvanized he's galvanized perception of national neglect. That led you to Trump. If he hadn't done this, this wouldn't be a problem.
But then what Jesse was talking about will be the next big issue, which is that if the members of Congress are able to get something passed and President Trump signs it, then who's going to actually be more mad? Will the base be frustrated?
Ooh, they won't be.
But that's what I think. I think if President Trump, he can do anything right now.
Right. That's the point. The point is it's no longer about ideology.
He's got plenty of capital with his base.
Yeah.
Plus, if that wall is beautiful, doesn't matter what happens.
He's the ace of base.